Okay, Ezra, I think maybe this will help you get started with Spring Roo. Let's talk about some of the things that need to be done. I've actually created a note here to kind of help with that. We're going to need to do a couple of things to get started. To be able to use Spring Roo, you're going to need to have a couple of prereqs, Maven. Yeah, I'm sure you already have that installed, but for anybody that doesn't, it's nice to know it's brew install Maven on your on basically your Macs. Secondly, download the latest. You'll need Java, and then secondly, you'll need to download the Spring Roo itself. And here's the actual directory, and you can actually come here and see it's release 1.2.3. There is the possibility of doing brew install spring-roo, as I mentioned here. The only thing is that it's going to give you one level back, and so it doesn't have the latest versions. What I did is went ahead and installed that, and then I created a symbolic link to it. You can see it right here. So it's in user local, and you can see where user local, and you've got the Spring Roo right here, and then I created the symbolic link to the Roo shell. In the directory distribution, they actually have various examples. To make things quick, I thought I would go ahead and use the Pizza Shop Roo. That's actually a file, just a straight text file, with various Roo commands. Roo is a shell. And so let's take a look at how we would use that. So what I did is I created the directory. So you can see here there's a Pizza Shop directory under downloads. And I put the pizzashop.roo in there. If we want to get started, let's bring up a command line here. And we'll type in Roo. We'll pipe in pizzashop.roo. And while we do this, we're going to watch what happens here on the left. And what's going to happen is it's going to bring the shell up, and as you know, it's going to pipe the various commands. I'll show you an actual tutorial that goes through each one of these commands, but we'll go over a quick overview. As you can see, it's created some basic things already, and there's a lot in here. To understand it best, it might be good to take a look at the actual what's going on here. So what I've already have my editor up here, and you can see I'm looking at Spring Roo, which is the first thing that existed there. And it's set up package. That's created the directory structure and a package called com spring source. So we ran this, like I said, in the actual directory that we created with that name, Pizza Shop. And as you can see, we're able to type in a command, JPA setup provider. And if you look in the tutorial, we'll actually show you what's created there. And then we'll actually define entities. And you just do them. What will happen is when you do entity, the next line is going to be expected to be an item, a field in that actual entity. So these are your domain objects. And these will generate, as you look here on the right, it will actually generate for you your various files. So we've got domain, and we've got some things we can edit, like we shouldn't edit these down here with the crazy names, but base Java we can edit. Likewise, we could edit pizza and all. So we can do that very easily, and we can add in our own code, do some extensions or whatever. There's various things you can do. Next, once we've created the domains, we can create repository. Now this actually, it has to do with creating, and I'll actually show you the chapter here that talks about it with entities, and you can do different persistence layers. And in this case, it's going to create let's see, where is that, repository. And it describes some of the things that it does there. It's going to add different layers to that. They went ahead and did the JPA repository in this example. So now we've created the things to actually to get at the particular domain layer. Now we're going to create some various services, and that's going to be topping service, base service, etc. So it's going to actually create that layer, and the annotation for service. It's going to create that, and we could go look at that, but to not waste time here, I'll just go ahead and go to the next step, which is going to be able to create, right here, we're going to be creating a RESTful web service with JSON, and then create a web MVC setup. So now if you look, we actually have the source here, right? That's about it. I'll look at the directory. You can actually see that's pretty much it. Got the web app. But I'm going to do one more thing in here before we're ready to go. And let's come in here. And we'll bring up the root shell. And I'm going to type in a command. Let's pull this aside so you can see what happens here. It's kind of cool. Right here, you notice there's no class path and nothing, and no directory for the actual packaging. So I'm going to do perform package. And what it's going to do is it's going to create my war file and get me ready to actually run this. So as you can see on the right here, left here, it's actually creating for me the various classes. It's going to actually create your actual war file. That's very fast because we didn't have much. And let's go ahead and do another little cute thing, and that's perform Eclipse. And if we wait a few minutes here, it's going to actually put the various config files that will allow us to actually edit this using Eclipse, such as Spring Tool Suite. And I won't bring it up for right now, but you can trust me on that. So let's do one more thing. Let's bring this up and let's take a look at it. Tomcat run. This will actually launch Tomcat and run that particular war file. And you can see that it's right here. It's put the description. Wait a second here and come back up. And you see that right here it said, oh, it's running war at this particular address here. So come in here, and if we paste this in, it's going to actually in just a second bring up, okay, we now have a fully functional app with a web interface, and I'll show you we also have a RESTful web interface. So let's go ahead and create a topping just to make it simple, and we'll call it mushrooms. And save that. And if I list all the toppings, you've got mushrooms. Okay, so I won't create all the other things, but just to kind of show you what you can do, let's see if this works here. Here we are. Okay, so what we're going to do is the app is running, and I'm going to do a curl command to the pizza shop /toppings. Notice it's the same thing as we're used to in terms of the routes. The only thing is I'm going to look at to expect that it's going to return JSON. I'll put it to standard out, which will pop it to the left here. And you can see it did that. It actually piped to the standard output the actual mushrooms listing the toppings, and it has one, which is mushrooms, name is mushrooms, version is 1. So we're all ready to go. We have this app. There's a number of other things that can be done here, let me talk about that. Just bring this up. So basically, right now we have an app that is generated with domain objects in memory database, easy to change to another provider. I can show you that. You can actually configure up your Spring settings and do all sorts of different things in there. That's the nice thing about this. You've got direct access to the Spring settings rather than having them through a layer and all of that. And obviously we're able to dynamically do a test, really straightforward. So some of the things that I've done that we could talk about later is I changed the theme to the Kubrick theme. That was another project. I can add an authentication layer. That's you just add the provider, and it's fairly simple to do. You can update the domain objects dynamically. You can actually delete and re-add them. It's very straightforward. If you've got the root shell up and you delete that first file like base Java, it will delete the rest of them automatically, and then when you create it, it'll recreate all of those. And then finally, it's not a problem. Now that we've got this, it's got the services, we can do some extensions to that code, but we can also we can actually add our own code doing other things accessing this. So this maybe creates the things that access our basic domain object, but we may have other things, like maybe we're trying to get to the connectivity CSO, and I can talk about how to do that, and we just wire that up, and we would actually put within the code maybe the ability to generate, to go out there and pull stuff off of the Cisco IT JMS queue that brings the data in from the customer. Lots of things you can do. So anyhow, we've been able to create fairly quickly a Spring Root app. It's really easy to modify, and in many respects I think it's leaner than Grails. You can actually add some Grails to this Groovy if you want to, or you can just keep doing it in straight Java.